In spinning, we now have a new jig rig, the skirted jig rig. How do we retrieve the lures? What do we need to watch out for? That's what I'm going to show you in this video. So the skirted jig has now been added in. With the latest update with Elk Lake, we now have a new rig type, and this rig type is combined with the regular jig rig. So we basically have the same skill points we can invest here. 3 skill points to again increase the chance of catching trophies with this rig. And in general, it really makes sense to skill into this rig because you can also target big catfish, for example. So putting 3 skill points into this one here is definitely worth it. In the last hour, I tested a ton of things. Different lures, different retrieval techniques, different sizes, and I already got quite a few really big fish on the hook, including a freshwater drum of over 8 kilos. So there's definitely potential here with this jig rig. And to start off, we'll go into a bit of the basics. I'll show you this now using a simple setup based on the classic Belaya setup. I'll link the video for the Belaya setup again here. It's a setup that, on the one hand, is extremely affordable and one you can use for a long time, even beyond level 30, all the way to the Yama River, for example, and with which you can also catch fish here really well. In this case, of course, I'm using very small lures, and here we have a huge selection of different lures. The lures are shown here in ounces, of course, but what's more important, and what makes a lot more sense for us, are the gram weights and the lengths in centimeters. So just take a look. What are we using? In this case here, we're starting off with really small ones like 4G and so on. That's what I've got on right now. Blue and black is a combination that actually works really, really well. You really can't go wrong with that. And then we get going. We start by casting. I just cast out a bit gently now, not even all that far. And then we let the lure sink down. What do these skirted jigs do? They kind of imitate a small crayfish, maybe. In real life fishing, these are often combined with small crayfish that are additionally attached to the hook. Now, here we have the option to fish the skirted jig on its own, and the best way to do that is to retrieve it really slowly. So we move the lure slowly over the bottom, and we also take little breaks now and then. Right now I've set the speed to 5, and like I showed before, on a 3000 size reel, so we're really moving slowly here. It's not necessary for it to say jigging at the bottom. You can do that. That's one option. Just slowly jigging it over the bottom. Zack! And there's the first bite. Pauses are also really important, so slowly across the bottom, and then pause, wait a bit. What just happened here is a good example. I always keep the drag fairly loose because in the beginning I kept getting missed bites. If that happens to you, missed bites again and again, just set the drag a bit looser. And then when the strike comes, you can still turn the drag back up slowly. So now I've just tightened the drag again, and now we can easily bring the fish in. That 8 kilo fish earlier really went wild, but on this water body, you can actually handle the fish really well. That works just fine. And here, we've got a really fat perch. Check it out, a spotted bass, really, really nice. 1.5 kilos, lots of XP too. That 3500 base XP. Plus, right now with the medium light setup, we get a little bonus on top. So that's already really nice. And like I said, with a small setup. You can of course also use this with the beginner setup, you just need to be careful. Definitely only use the smallest lures because you have less breaking power. So the best way is to fish with a 23 dill line, and then you'll get a really, really long fight with a fish like that. right? I've already cast out again. Now slowly dragging it across the bottom again. I'm lowering the drag again. Just now it was at 10. That worked pretty well on this reel. And now, slow movement again, still on speed 5. Ground contact. Okay, contact with the bottom again. Wait a little. Maybe give it a little hop in between. Then slowly reel again. You can give it another little hop and bam, there's the bite again, and then slowly reel it in until it stops clicking, until the drag kicks in, and then we can slowly bring the fish in. Perfect. The next little warmth goes right in again, and zack, cast again right away. And like I said, this already works really well with this super small fine setup. Drag down again, and then just drag it gently along the bottom. We're imitating a kind of crayfish that's crawling along the bottom, searching along the ground, basically. And that's exactly what triggers the baish. That's what we want. Slowly along the bottom, and now and then, take a short break, and bam, next bite. And then again, we can tighten the drag up nicely. Yep, it's still clicking a bit, so we can tighten a little more. Perfect. And that's how we can really target bash with this method. In the last live stream, there were also a few tips, like for example, using small jerks. So you might go to a faster speed, then let the lure sink again, and then do say 1, 2, 3, 4 little hops along the bottom. Zack, 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 zack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So speed 50 plus shift. And then you just do these tiny little hops along the bottom. Zack, 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 zack. And just like that, we've got the jigging action again. And that can also work really well now and then. I've tried that a bit too, but it wasn't all that consistent for me. So in some spots it worked, and in some spots it was a bit meh. Maybe a bit trickier. But maybe that's another one of those weather things, like where are the fish hanging out? Are we making small movements along the bottom? Or are we pretty much dragging the lure across the ground? Or do we maybe take the jig all the way up, like really nicely up into mid-water, and then let it sink again? Those are, of course, all different kinds of presentations, and that's obviously super important. As a spin fisher, you test stuff like that. Where are the fish hanging out? That's always the big question, and it always varies, depending on the time of day, depending on the temperature. So we keep searching again and again, and of course also move the lures differently. Like I said, that lift up motion, you can totally do that from time to time. Just pull it all the way up, let it drop again, and then like I said, keep slowly dragging it along the bottom. But what really has worked again and again is going really slow. That really gets you in here safely. So, slow retrieve, throw in a pause now and then, pull slowly, and you still slowly ease into that jigging motion. And that also really helps. So you end up catching something again. When choosing your spot, look for interesting bottom features. So bottom structure where something's happening. Like here, we've got trees in the water, or up here, there's also a big log in the water. Stuff like that is always super interesting. Or of course, little grassy islands, tiny islands in the water where you can see it's really shallow there and grass is already growing up through the surface. So in those areas too, definitely worth trying with the jig. And otherwise, of course, also feel free to go along the shoreline, and definitely always in areas where there are drop-offs. Those are always great spots for perch fishing. And then yeah, just keep testing. You can also take the boat out and just test those spots with the boat. Especially here at this water, the boat doesn't have a trolling setup or anything. So you just position yourself precisely at a spot to fish it actively with one rod, so you really feel the action on the rod. And yeah, with the bigger rods, you definitely fish a lot bigger here. I'll show that again in a sec on 2 other rods. A setup I'm currently really liking is a larger medium light setup. And we're gonna put this setup away now. That's the Baya setup in the base version. More details on that are in the linked video. This setup here, I already put it together last week. It's been newly added to the shop since the anniversary. So we've got the Sputnik Alpha caster in the medium light version. Why medium light again? Because we've just got this massive range. Casting weight from 3 grams to 15 grams, that's totally worth it. Tons of line capacity, even though I probably won't even use that big capacity here. It just helps reduce wear and tear. 2.4 meters is also super practical, especially for light jigging and for these delicate perch. That really makes it fun. The length, totally sufficient. 2.4 meters is a really nice match for perch fishing. Power 6 out of 10, that's super important for working different kinds of lures, like for wobblers or topwater lures. You really need that 6 out of 10 so you can get the right lure action going. Yeah, and for skirted jigs, this is also super practical. I'm pairing it with the Simon ZM Steelness. That one's already pretty expensive, and you're probably not buying that mid-game. More like in the end game, once you've saved up some more silver. Cause this reel, it's completely modded. This is not the regular version. The normal version wouldn't really fit this setup. The casting weight would be way too high. In this case, since it's modded, I've dropped the casting weight down to just 3.3 grams. So it's basically a low-profile reel, but in 5,000 size. So like a big low-profile reel. And yeah, several components have been replaced in the workshop. The bearings, the drag system, I think I swapped that too, and the spool head, or the spool itself. That's actually essential, because by changing the spool, we've drastically reduced the line capacity. Right now, only 119 meters. So that's really not much. But in return, we've got a much lower casting weight. When the lubrication on this reel drops soon, I'd say to around 20 to 30% wear, I'll replace the oil with a high-performance one. That way the wear on the gears and bearings doesn't go up, because the less oil you've got, the more wear you get on those two parts. And those are way more expensive to replace than just changing the oil. Yeah, and with this setup, the whole thing's also super fun to fish with skirted jigs. I've already got some larger jigs on here, and even now, I'm just casually casting them out, half loaded. Retrieve speed is set to 5 again, drag set loose, and then you just do a bit of reeling, pause now and then, until you feel that ground contact again. Just reel a little, half a turn, maybe a full turn. And what also works great is doing these little hops now and then. That escape move from the crayfish, Zach, just pop it up like that. Then reel in again, maybe pause again, and then just keep it moving real gentle. Now it's time to test. What colors work? What colors are the fish into right now? And I'll definitely be testing those big holes soon, the deeper spots here, because the big heavy fish have got to be somewhere. So now it's all about testing and trying things out. What lures are interesting for the really big perch here? And above all, where are the really big perch hanging out? Zach, there's the next one. And yeah, now it's time to get it out again. Test, 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 as always. If all of this helped you, leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in one of the next videos, or maybe in the live stream. Until then, tight lines.